remembered that. You got them for everybody.
Word 7, right?
Megan told me. I'm scared. I gotta deal with that shit.
I feel like we should dance it.
Oh, come on. Oh, I love your song.
Good evening. I would like to call to order the Borough Council meeting for May 21st, 2025. If you would rise for the pledge and remain standing for a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ken? Okay.
Mr. Kliskevich.
I am here.
Mr. Lister.
Here.
Ms. Lloyd.
Here.
Mr. Redinger.
Here.
Ms. Reed.
Here.
Ms. Willenbecker is absent. Ms. Miller.
Here. I'd like to report on our last executive session. We discussed real estate and personnel. No action was taken. Item number 1. Oh, I'm sorry. Public comment. Public comment on agenda items only. Seeing none.
Madam President, I'd also like to make note that, since I did roll call, that Mayor Curry is on the line.
Okay. Okay, agenda item number 1.
That would be the approval of our minutes. So I have a motion to approve council meeting minutes for the May 6, 2025 meeting as submitted.
So moved. Second?
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 2.
So I have a motion to approve payment of bills as shown on the account payable list dated May 15, 2025, which is for the period of May 1, 2025 through May 15, 2025, and to ratify the approval of such bills already paid and to authorize the appropriate officials to make the required actions to make those payments.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 3.
Do I have a motion to approve payment number 9 to Hayden Power Group, invoice number 08362, in the amount of $248,292, as recommended by Ashblunt Engineering Services for the construction work completed on the Spruce Street substation.
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
What?
Aye.
You're opposed?
I'm opposed, yeah. Yes, and aye.
Motion passes. 5-1.
Yep.
Item number 4.
Do I have a motion to approve change order, a no-cost change order number 1, providing for time extension for Doug Lamb Construction for the completion of the Overdeer Park Improvement Project scheduled for May 30th of 2025?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 5.
This is Resolution 2025-12. At our last meeting, we approved this action to apply for the grant, but now we need a resolution to go with the grant application package. So do I have a motion to adopt Resolution 2025-12, requesting a Greenways, Trails, and Recreation Program grant of $250,000 for a walking path at the Middletown Pool property?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 6.
Do I have a motion to approve a no-cost change order number 4, providing for the time extension from July 25, 2025 to November 6, 2025 for the completion of the Spruce Street Substation Replacement Project?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-1. Item number 7.
Item number 7, you'll also find it's in my manager's report. This was a really last-minute item that came up from the Dauphin County Water Resource Enhancement Program. They approached us between this meeting and our last meeting and said, hey, are you still interested in possibly doing the bank restoration along the Swideyer Creek at Huffer Park? This bank restoration is a project that we proposed to be done by the rep group in order to obtain MS4 credits on our stormwater permit. The folks who lead that rep group selected our project as one to put forward for a Greenways grant through DEP that could get that done at no cost to Middletown. However, we would have to front the cost to get the engineering proposal out because of time constraints. This grant is due in June. Let me see here, June 20th. So because of time constraints, they ask us to lead that and get a cost estimate and a project narrative for that to be done, and then they would reimburse us for those engineering costs as soon as that comes in. So I think it's a great opportunity to get credits for our MS4 program and also get a needed repair done. Now this bank restoration, if you ever looked over the side there at Swideyer Creek, it's pretty steep and there's a lot of erosion going on. And in some places it's eroding the bank away back toward our borderline fence there on Hoffer Park. So this project would be geared at fixing that and restoring and preventing future erosion. So with that said, I'll read the motion and then we can ask questions. The motion I have is, do I have a motion to approve support for a Dauphin County Water Resource Enhancement Program request for a DEP Growing Greener grant for the restoration of the Swideyer Creek Bank at Huffer Park?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 8.
Okay, we received a couple special event requests regarding with the air show going on this coming weekend. I'll read the motion. Motion to approve special event request from MABA to open their concession stand at Med-Ed Field May 24th and 25th, and to approve the American Legion to provide food at the corner of South Union Street and Susquehanna Street on Saturday only, May 24th, 2025, during the HIA Air Show.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 9, Manager's Report.
Okay, I have a number of information items here, starting with item number 1 there. We are still waiting on a written request. I think Grace got a phone call about this. Grace and Mercy Church interested in renting the pavilion and having a tribute with having vendors and food trucks at the park. So we don't know how many or whatever, so that we asked them to put that in a request. They're looking to do this in September. So we have to sit tight until we get that in there. I just wanted to give it to you as an information item at this point. Item number 2 talks about the legislative request to legislators from the American Power Association to members of Congress to sign a bipartisan Dear Colleague letter to the leaders of the House Appropriations Subcommittee on Labor, Health, and Human Services, asking them to prioritize low-income home energy assistance program, also known as LIHEAP, funding for 2026. It's been recognized that LIHEAP is one of the things that was removed from the federal bill that is now in front of Congress. So I went on the senator's website and gave them my concerns as well. But just wanted to let you know that we'll have to keep an eye on that, what the Congress does and the Senate with that new bill. If they don't put LIHEAP back in, that is going to be put a hurt on some of our residents when it comes to the winter heating season.
On electric prices.
It's an energy assistant for electric bills. It's an income-based level. People have to be under a certain income to get assistance for their electric heat. So that's what that's about there, just an informational item. Then we already talked about number 3. We did the motion there. We have prepared door hangers to put out on Grandview parking permit area. Matt, you'll hear from Matt later on that he has the new signs to go up for the permit parking. Item number 5, I sent you all an email, but just for the general public, Veolia has started their water and sewer main projects for this year. They began on Keystone Avenue. Other places you'll see them working are Spruce, East Peters Avenue, Aspen Street, Oak Hill Drive, East Water Street, and portions of Vine Street and North Union Street. Project will be ongoing through March of 2026, both water and sewer work. Number 6, informational item. Public Safety Director Wright heard from the VFW and confirmed with the Legion that they are not going to have a Memorial Day parade this year, but they will still have a ceremony out at the cemetery.
Did they say why?
They did not. Item number 7, informational, that we spent some time preparing for and attended the Act 111 interest arbitration meeting regarding the police collective bargaining agreement on May 16th. An arbitration award will be forthcoming. Once we receive that award, we'll share it with council and let you know about the budget impact. At the June 2025 business meeting, I will be presenting an agreement to you for our part-time electric system manager trainee, and also other employment documents as far as the replacement of the superintendent and the resulting salaries that we discussed in executive session. That will be presented to you for a vote of June 3rd. Item number 9, I sent a letter as requested by DCNR to them that was also addressed to the Federal Land Conservation Stewardship Section, requesting approval for the permanent pool closure and the replacement of the pool with the new proposed park modifications, including the nature play area and the walking trails. Just today, I received an email in response to that letter from DCNR, informing me that the gentleman who heads up the Land Water Conservation Fund review is leaving employment with them this week, so they've been directed to send that letter to an email resource center, so they're not sure when we're going to get a response. However, in the email from DCNR to me, they assured us that we should move forward, that if there are any requirements that come down from LWCF, that they will work with us to meet those requirements. So I think that's good news. Basically saying, we support your project, whatever happens, we're going to come through with some grant, is what way I take that. So that's good news. Couple of new items that came up. We have a resident, Sean Jordan, who has submitted a letter of interest to serve on the Planning Commission. If no one objects, we'll forward his name for a vote on June the 3rd. And we also got a request from Castaway Critters. They want to do a special event request for a fundraiser at Huffer Park on August 9th with a yard sale, a picnic, and other fun activities. We'd like to place that on your agenda for June 3rd meeting as well. And the documents are in your packet if you want to look at what they're saying in the special request. If there aren't any other questions, that completes my report.
Okay.
Thank you, Ken.
Item number 10, codes.
Good evening. If you look at the report that I provided here, some statistics were a little high with our violations than average due to grass and weeds, but nothing that's too overwhelming. April, we had 15 rental complaints and 10 property complaints, and the rest were handled. For number 3, just for information, 301 North Union Street, the owner appealed to the zoning hearing board to convert the current 3 units it has, plus a commercial, into 7 efficiency units, plus the commercial, and off-street parking variances as well, and that's scheduled for June 19th. Number 4, just information, the sheds that are on the borough property, parks, and the floodplain, their compliance deadline is this Friday here, the 23rd, and 1 association has complied with those. So we're hoping to get the other association to get the sheds that are on the borough property into compliance. And then number 5, I have the ordinance attachment. We're requesting to have the handicap parking, unreserved parking, revised. It's currently stating as 2 per block, but no specifications to that. And due to a circumstance where there was a handicap right next to another handicap space, we are requesting that we do this revision to have the 2 per block, but on opposite sides of the street, so that there's not the proximity of one close to the other. There was also some dispute of the space encroaching another person's property, and I'd like to just have that maybe redacted on our ordinance to where we don't have a neighbor make a discussion of whether or not they can use a space. Since it's a public street, there really isn't ownership of the space there. There are some houses that are only 19 feet of width, and we would need at least a 24 comfortably foot width for a lot of these handicap spaces. And create a lot of the neighbors, if we need a written okay from a neighbor. That's
What do you mean redacted on the ordinance?
so currently we have a neighbor that we have to have a written approval for the handicap parking to be in place if it has to encroach on the curb of
Oh, is that in our ordinance?
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I don't know why that we have
So-
that.
Yeah, so if
No,
you look,
It's an ordinance, I think, that was copied from one in Steelton, where in these older communities, where some of these homes don't have a lot of frontage, but somebody's elderly and needs a handicap space, we allow them to get a signed and notarized letter of permission from their neighbor for the handicap space to be partially in front of their property. So if they need 24 feet, and my property's only 19, I get a letter from my neighbor that I can have the blue line painted
On the public street.
5 feet on the public curb in front of their property. That's what that's about.
Okay, just that, I mean, legally it is a public street. I mean, it's
Mhm.
not,
Yeah.
nobody
Has the right
has
to.
the right to,
Yeah, if you, I
It's a weird-
have copies of it, so if you look at
Okay.
252-47B,
Well, see, in my opinion, that's not the problem. The problem is both on the same side of the street.
Yep.
Because technically, like, Jason said, these are really, they appear to be owned by the person who requests them, but they aren't. They're really unreserved handicap spaces that we agree to put in on that street. So, my recommendation would be, since they're unreserved, anybody who visits in town can park in a handicapped space.
If they have a handicap.
If they have a handicap
That's
placard,
the,
why
catch
have
to
them
that.
back to back? Why not have them either side of the street? To accommodate that. That would be my suggestion.
Makes sense. We
Yep.
talked about this before, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Came up.
how many estimated, how many houses are on a block? On one side?
10 to 12.
So if you have 12 properties on one block, on one side of the street, and you have a handicapped person and grandma falls and breaks her hip, she can't get a handicap spot then?
She can if there's already two on the street as well.
What's up?
If there's already two on the street as well, and a third one comes in, she can't get one, according to our ordinance.
So then you would have 3 handicapped people fighting over unreserved handicap spots.
That's
Yeah.
right.
2, up to 2.
Over two, yeah.
Right.
I don't.
You can make it unlimited.
What?
I'm saying, if that's the opposite, you know, is he gonna set it at 3, you gonna set it at 4 on the street? 5? Unlimited? We stopped, originally was suggested 1 on each side. And at that time, when we adopted it years ago, council didn't want that, because they were thinking like you, well, what if there's 2 on this side?
Oh.
So let's not limit it to 1 on each side. Well, in this case, recently we had experience with 2 on one side, it only had a space in between them. And there was a lot of drama over it. And the problem could be that, well, somebody on the other side says they're handicapped, now there's a third space, we're gonna tell them, no, there's already 2 on that street. So, it would be the same thing as, no, there's already 1 on that side.
Is this a systemic problem in the borough? I get nervous about legislating on what ifs. Like, do we have a problem? Is this happening?
It wasn't a problem for me, it was for the borough, it was a problem with the homeowners. And it was a problem with police calls.
But
for the borough.
isn't that particular street, isn't one of those homeowners moving?
Yeah, he's
It is.
moving.
It is, yeah, they are,
So wouldn't
sale.
we be?
so that'll be removed once they are vacating the property.
I think the ordinance needs to be addressed as far as the permission from a neighbor. It makes absolutely no sense that you have to get permission to use a public street. I mean, our
I agree
solicitor
with
can weigh into that. And I know there's been issues with this particular street, for lots of issues, even outside of the handicap parking, but I probably wouldn't support it unless it was like a major issue going on street by street by street, but I don't think we have that issue. So I probably won't support it, but that's my 2 cents. But thank you.
We'll
Yeah.
just leave it as is.
Yeah.
Council's call.
Good council call.
Yeah, if council wants us to go through with this, we'll start editing and bring it up. If not, we'll leave it as it is.
I mean, we have to approve when they request a handicap spot, am I right?
Right.
Ultimately, council approves.
So we could always just, I guess.
You have, I mean, there you
You
go.
can't not approve it if the space is available. Unless you have the,
Can we say where they're gonna put it though? Can we say, yeah, we'll approve it, but on the other side of the street?
Yeah, you
You
could.
could.
I mean, it is a public street. It is odd to me. I didn't realize we had kind of a private veto power of the neighbor. You
I
know,
would say remove that too, yeah.
So,
it's just weird conceptually that, because it could almost be somebody's discriminating against disabled people and therefore says no. I don't know. It's just a weird.
well, it's a public street.
Yeah, it's
I
odd
mean,
to
that's
me.
what's so,
Yeah.
The ordinance came, like I say, from Steelton Borough. They've been doing it for years. They have a lot of row homes, and they had problems with a lot of people wanting handicap spaces that didn't have frontage.
Makes sense.
We could see that we get into that same issue in some places in Middletown.
Mhm.
So we presented that, whoever was the solicitor at the time looked at it, and it went through.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's illegal, it's just odd to me that one private, so if the bumper's gonna stick you need 3 feet.
Well, people fight over parking spaces.
No,
I mean, the way I look at this, and this is my last rant about it. Instead of doing something like this and putting a Band-Aid on it and just blowing it over, why doesn't the borough find some blighted properties in town, knock them down, and create more parking? And let's help solve the issue and just putting a Band-Aid on it.
Well,
And
handicapped people wanna park close to their home.
I understand that, but if there's a block and there's a blighted property on it, and we demo it and we make it off-street parking, there's 10 houses now. There you can fit 4 more cars off the street. If a handicapped person does come up, it's not a big deficit. It's not going to be the end of the world because you created some off-street parking. There's lots of places in the borough of Middletown that the borough could utilize and make off-street parking. We have a parking problem. Everybody knows that. It's not a secret. I think we should be more proactive in helping solve the issue instead of just putting Band-Aids on it. My opinion. I have nothing else to say.
I
Thank you.
don't think tax dollars should pay for parking lots. That's what I'm saying. We would be responsible to tear down a house, build a parking lot. Why would you do that?
I don't know.
I don't want a parking lot in my neighborhood.
You wouldn't like some off-street parking?
I have off-street parking. My neighbors can have the frontage of my house to park because I park off-street.
I think a lot of people in town would love to have off-street parking, is my opinion.
I think neighborhoods work it out individually, neighbor by neighbor. But I do think those 2 handicap spaces need to be separated. In the future, we don't want to get in a situation where we have to do it again.
So I have a question. So let's say there's one on a street already, on the left side of the street, and an application comes in now, and that person's on the left side of the street at the other end of the street, the other end of the block.
Bless you.
So then we would deny that, or we would say, you can have it, but we're going to put you on the right side of the street. Is that what we're saying?
I don't know. I mean, right
No,
now, the way it
I-
stands, 2 people apply and they get approved. A 3rd person, they don't get one.
Right, but would we put the second person on the left side of the street on the right side of the street?
No, the whole thing, the intent, the whole thing was we were trying to put the handicapped parking spots in front of the person's house.
Right, no, I know that, but if we're saying we're only gonna allow one on the left side of the street and one on the right side, so we already have one on the left side, now we have somebody that lives on the same side of the street, another person comes in, they live on the same side, they're asking for a permit, so we already have one here. So are we gonna say to that person, we already have one on that side of the street, so we will give you one, but you have to go on this side of the street? I'm asking, like, is that what we would do? We would then say, okay, you can have a permit, but you have to go on this side of the street.
I see what
The way the
council.
ordinance is written now,
No.
it would say you have to find somebody on the other side of the street that's gonna give you permission to put a handicap.
Okay, so then that's my first issue is that whole asking permission for somebody to park in front of your house on a public street. I have a huge issue with that because where I live, if I come home and somebody's in front of my street, and I live in the borough of Middletown, obviously, then somebody's parked in front of my street, in front of my house. I mean, that's just the way it is. So why would I have to ask anybody? Why would anybody have to ask permission to have a handicap spot 3 feet in front of somebody else's property? Like, that's just wild to me.
Let's change it.
It is, that's
Alright,
strange
that's
to me
just-
from a legal perspective, just that,
My
that,
point
didn't
is
know
it's
that.
most likely the other side of the street, let's say if it's Catherine Street or one of the other tight streets, the person across the street only has 20 feet of parking in front of their house. And that might be all they have. So you're taking somebody else's part. So then they're gonna have those people complain. So you either let it the way it is, or my point is that, at some point, somebody gets turned down.
Yeah.
But I see Councilor actually make you made a good argument. So taking the asking for permission off the equation, If you have a block and one side of the block has an existing handicap resident, and that same side somebody else needs a handicap spot, would we then, and there's nothing on the opposite
Right.
side currently, would we say, okay, well, you can have it over here, and now you're putting it in front of somebody else's house? So if we changed the ordinance and went with this recommendation, would that be the outcome in that scenario?
It would be.
So then,
The outcome in that scenario where we pick something on the other side of the street and don't ask permission, there'll be a complaint from the person who lives on that side of the street.
That's right.
But what I'm saying is, these are public streets. Why would we ask permission for someone to have a handicap spot in front of, to park on a public street? That's my question. I'm not saying I agree or disagree. It is a question.
It was just for encroachment, if you didn't have enough frontage. Because PennDOT has a standard configuration for how long handicap spaces should be.
Mm.
And I don't know, Matt could tell us, it might be 24. If you only have 20 feet of frontage, it was permission to put your bumper 4 feet over here
No,
and make it handicap where you
I understand that. I think my point is being missed here.
I totally get your point.
I think, if I'm understanding you right, you would end up putting the handicap parking in front of somebody else's house. Is that what you're saying?
No, that's
Oh.
not what I'm saying. What my point is that these are public streets. I'm not understanding that we are asking people permission to park in front of their houses to place handicap.
Your thing is, we
Spot.
decide where they go and we put them there, basically.
Well, yeah, I guess that is what I'm saying.
Right.
When it comes down
What
to
I'm
it,
saying is
yeah.
when we do that, if we put one that's not in front of that handicapped person's house,
Right,
wherever it is, they're gonna holler.
right, that's what I'm
So then, okay, so then my
That's all.
point to that is, so then when I come home and there's 3 cars in front of my house because my neighbor next door is having a party, should I holler?
But
I
you
mean,
always, if you're not handicapped and they aren't, you always have a shot at it. This handicap
Yep,
spot
it limits
really
it.
Okay,
limits
so
it
then,
to that.
okay, so yes, now I'm playing devil's advocate here. So then that goes back to if we say we're only allowing one on one side of the street and one on the other side, so now I'm person 2 on the left side, and because, Sally down the street, sorry Sally, it was the first name that came into my head, down the street became handicapped before I did, she gets the left side of the street, and I'm just out of luck that I became handicapped second, now I have to go on the right side of the street.
Oh, yeah.
And because the way our ordinance is, no one on the right side of the street wants to be nice to me and allow me to park in front of their house, I just don't get a handicap spot.
Yeah,
That's right.
this is,
Well, that just really sucks for me that I'm
That's
handicapped and can't park anywhere.
Ms. Lloyd, all these things that you're putting forward and other people are also an argument why a previous council eliminated all handicap spots on streets.
Well, that's even worse. I mean, like,
Well,
we're just
because
not a
you can't-
handicap-friendly
if
town,
you
and that's
all- if
really
you
not
all start,
okay.
You can't please everybody.
Right.
Right.
You have to pick one of the.
It's gonna create an issue in some way or another.
You hit the nail on the head. You can't please everybody, and that's why I ask, is this a systemic problem that we are getting complaints on a daily, monthly basis? I don't think so. Yes, we had one problem child on one street, and it went way over and above and beyond handicap parking. That's all I'm saying. So do we need to go off the deep end and start doing some crazy legislation over it? I don't know if it's warranted. Because it does, at the end of the day, council does approve or deny handicap parking spaces.
Yeah,
True.
it's just weird to me from a legal, so, even if you're gonna put them in front of the house, it sounds like where this really tricks, the thing that's weird to me is, if you need 4 more feet, you're still primarily in front of the house. You still have to get permission from the person,
Adjoining property.
Adjoining.
Yeah.
For the 4 feet,
yeah.
if it's over
So
the
that,
property.
I mean, that, it's just odd to me if you're, even if you don't have to do it, if you're, doing a handicap accommodation, that you bring a private party into the
In the
equation
mix.
where they have to, we'd think you could have private parties come in here and argue why not to put it there or something, but it's odd that, to me, that
Yeah,
private
it
party
was done that
weighs
way,
in
I'm
on
sure,
the-
because in a case like where you have them almost back to back, you just have one homeowner in between, and they have 18 foot of frontage, and there's blue right up to them on both sides. person who lives in the middle, they can't park there because you
Yeah.
can't get the car in.
It actually takes up parking.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that I
It
thought
wastes
was what you were talking
parking,
about,
whatever
trying to
you wanna say.
separate.
Some kind of standard how we're gonna
Yeah.
do these things.
Well, I thought that's what you were talking about, separating the spaces somehow, so they're not
Yeah,
less than a space apart. I don't know, it's really the bringing in of the
You just don't-
power of a private party in the public street where they have no legal power.
Well, and I
just
think
work
you
with it the way it is.
alluded to this, that what if that private party does not like the neighbor that needs the handicap spot, and they say no indefinitely till they pass away just because they don't like the neighbor. So that neighbor never gets the handicap spot that they need because the neighbor doesn't like them.
Yep.
There's nothing we can do about that.
I would like to see that part removed as well, especially considering that we have the opportunity to deny or approve the ones that come through. So if we can get the details when you bring them in front of us, I just don't like having the private party either. I understand the point, but
I mean, because theoretically, if they are side by side, we could technically not put them side by side and move them down
exactly, yeah.
the street a little bit. And depending on the street, it may not be a street like the street that we have an issue on right now. Because maybe we made that mistake. We should not have approved it right where it was.
Problem is, it's not a one-size-fits-all.
Right.
And that's, the way it's set up now is we can kind of pick and choose a little bit.
so if we're allowing 2 spaces like the ordinance is now, something like this comes back in again, and we deny it, can we
So-
deny it?
Maybe, I mean, I think you ought to look at the whole big picture and see, because I'm hearing issues, and one of the issues is you could sterilize part of the street because you put 2 handicap spaces where there's no car can effectively park between them. Then it would seem to me there ought to be a rule to say no handicap spaces can be more than 24, however many feet a normal parking
In
space
this
would be.
latest case, we did that. We had moved and encroach on the next neighbor. And that's where that next neighbor
There-
said, that's okay, I have enough frontage, you can
Yeah,
encroach on
we
mine."
permitted a space for the neighbor in between to have a 1-car space.
We did move that one.
We didn't have them right up against each other.
Yeah,
But-
but without permit parking with specific spaces, I mean, that person has no legal connection to say you can't, I mean, if we suddenly made
You
it
don't,
no
it's
parking
all-
on this side of the street,
It's all
it's no,
trying the whole point of it was trying to eliminate
An argument.
an argument.
Which it sounds like staff did handle it, and situation, crisis averted, everything's good.
For as best as possible, sure, yeah.
Oh, good job. Thank you.
So, do we keep it as it is, or do we wanna remove the line item of
Permission.
permission?
I want to remove that.
I do
Me
as
though.
well.
Same here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then we'll do that. Looking at the number 6, we're working with the solicitor. We're still waiting for some feedback on the non-conversion agreement. We discussed those things, and then the rental inspection ordinance. They're the 2 that are out in the open at this moment.
Jim, what's going on with the rental inspection?
I don't know what's going on with it.
How? You don't,
Yeah, so I didn't realize you were waiting for something from me on that?
Yeah, I sent you a message saying whatever the revisions were
Oh, okay, when,
a month or so ago.
oh, geez, I totally missed that.
Okay.
Yeah, rattle I mean, I get a couple hundred emails a day. If you
Right.
don't see me respond to something, rattle my cage. 'Cause
Mhm.
I didn't, was not aware that was sitting there.
Alright.
So did you work up a draft?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. And I'll refresh again and
okay, appreciate it.
get those things taken care of.
Well,
Any other
my
questions?
apologies there.
Do you know what time that hearing is on the 19th?
6:30.
What hearing? I'm sorry, what hearing?
Number 3, the 301 zoning hearing.
Oh,
board.
gotcha. I was lost there for a second.
oh, forget it, I'll ask you later.
Anyone else?
Where are we at with the lot consolidation program? Weren't we
That's Matt.
Oh, I'm
Talking
sorry.
about, like, the HIA stuff and all?
No,
sorry.
no.
Oh, yeah.
The lot
Oh, the ordinance.
Yes,
yeah.
we were
The
looking
ordinance.
at various township ordinances. Solicitor Diamond provided us some of those. We were sort of discussing them. It kind of put on hold for this moment because of other things that came up. But yeah, we can continue to focus on those. The good news is one of the lots that I thought of did get approval for a house to get put on there. So that was
Excellent.
That was nice, even better than a consolidation. So.
Excellent.
Yeah, but we'll continue to look into those things.
I thought that was a good thing that we were doing
Yep,
that. So
yep. I'll keep moving on that. I'll put that in my notes to bring that back up. All right. Anything else?
No.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
Number 11, electric.
It's electric.
Okay, under my action items, you took care of number 2 for the change order for the 100-day extension. So to give you a little bit of update, they're back grinding at the substation working. I see that they looks like they poured the foundations for the towers today. So and they received a bunch of the equipment for the structure. So things are back to moving out there, and hopefully, you know, they don't get held up by a lot of this rain that's been plaguing us for the last month. The other action item I have is next meeting is to approve the contract and agreement with AMP Partners, and it would take a resolution to. This is just for, it's not for power supply, but it's for membership there for things like training. Also, it allows us to be able to participate in projects that they do with other municipalities, such as peak shaving generation, things like that, if the borough so wishes to get involved with that. And AMP does it through their funding, so they do it actually through the savings of the PJM costs. So the annual fee is approximately $16,000, which is minimal. Training alone, you know, will pay for a lot of that, but that will be at next meeting for a vote. If there's any questions in between there, I'd be happy to answer them, or I would be even happy to give you the contact if I don't know the questions for AMP, and he could help you. But also, number 15, I'm proud to say that for third year in a row, Middletown Electric was one of 6, but we were recognized by American Public Power for electric reliability. The recognition demonstrates that public power utilities are above average in reliability when compared to all U.S. So they look at the data from the Department of Energy, and also this program that we, as a member, we also subscribe to this program, and it's a you enter all your information in, and it starts taking your indices and keeping track of everything for you. And then at the end of the year, it'll pull those indices and compare you with everybody else in the public power rates, 2,000 customers. And there's only a minor percentage of people that get this. And we've been doing good the last couple of years. And just really quick, like our, it's called SAIDI. It's SAIDI, and it's a System Average Interruption Duration Index. And in minutes, our average minutes for duration is 45.7 minutes. Utilities that use this e-tracker, their average, when compared, to them is 120 minutes. Utilities in our region, their average is about 82. So they want to try and narrow it down, you know, because California might have a different response time, and due to issues, you know, got to be in the woods, you know, walk 3 miles to get to a pole or something like that. So they do try and get your area too, as far as comparison. And I just think it's something worth putting out, you know, and kind of proud of my guys and the borough. Again, I always say that it's the borough that gives you the equipment and gives you the ability to go out and in your budget and replace 100 poles in a year and a half or 2 years, like we have done here, which is 10% of our poles, and that's a pretty doggone good maintenance program. So thanks again, and thank you to our guys that, you know, get up in the middle of the night and run in and take care of these outages. So if you have any questions on the report, feel free to ask me and I'll explain it to you. And any other questions on my monthly report?
Well, thank you and your guys, but I was wondering, could you maybe, for the people that are like watching and that are here, could you just maybe give a very brief summary on what the AMP is, so that maybe people, I don't know that.
So AMP Partners, it's American, I don't know the what it's called, but anyways, they are like what PMEA is to us, our Pennsylvania Municipal Electric System. So it is for power companies that are not for profit, and they handle power procurement and other things such as safety. They actually will do, they have a ride-along program where you can contract with them. They'll ride your system with a piece of equipment that will find radio frequency issues and plot them on a map, and then you can go out later on and I've done this with them when we were partners with AMP before. I haven't done it in the last, because we haven't been partners, but it's little things like that the benefits that I see with this part of there's an A and I think it's a B classification, and we're just this contract here would just be for the A part. It wouldn't be the power procurement end of it, but they do it for, I don't have the information, so I don't want to speak wrong. I think it's 7 states or 8 states that they're in. So Ohio, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Maryland.
It's basically a trade organization with other affiliates associated with them. The trade
It's on the bottom of the
part
Yeah, it is.
I don't have that in front of me, sorry.
You pay a membership and they provide certain services. They get together with training. They also do legislative alerts for you, and through their the fees, they have lawyers and so forth who can lobby the government on issues of power in the industry. And then some of their affiliates, they go out and actually do work, like they'll fund some of these behind-the-meter projects. They'll actually purchase power for you. They'll broker power purchases for you. But that's another add-on, if you want it. He's just talking about the membership part of the trade organization now. That will give him a lot of access to some really highly specialized training and the knowledge base what he gets from the group of members in there.
And I believe that most all PMEA, Pennsylvania Municipal members, are members of AMP.
Oh.
And one of the things that you get from when you become a member of AMP is they actually pay your APPA membership, which is close to $6,000 a year. So, you know, that's a
Oh,
big
wow.
part, yeah. So, anyways, in the past, there was some legislation that was, negative towards public power within Pennsylvania, and AMP actually paid, not PMEA, but AMP went to bat. PMEA asked AMP, can you help us on this to fight this? And AMP came in and helped on behalf of the PMEA membership. And, you know, we weren't members, it didn't matter, we're one group when it comes to that, so, it is time to rejoin this organization.
So this says that we hopefully would never need this, but it says that they also have like a mutual aid program.
Correct.
So is that the part that we receive, that we're
That's
doing?
another perk that you receive from that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, yes.
Well,
Oh,
we,
good.
we look like our neighbor is part of this, because it shows different municipalities at the bottom, and it looks like Royalton's part of it.
Correct. Yeah,
So, you know,
yes.
a couple of our neighbors around here, like, Duncannon and Goldsboro and.
So, I mean, we were members for a long time, and there was a group of council that came in and kind of AMP got a bad rap for the rates at the time, and it wasn't an AMP issue, but they took the fall for it. And, you know, they kind of stopped paying membership and things like that, and we just never went back to it because it was kind of a contentious thing there for a while. But actually, I wish I would have asked to be an AMP member, you know, 10 years ago.
Okay.
So,
Craig, I have another question for you. Does the borough offer any sort of rebate incentive programs for commercial and residential customers as far as LED upgrades and HVAC upgrades?
no, but AMP does have programs like that.
I'm not talking about AMP, I'm talking about the borough.
But AMP does have programs like that assist the borough if you're a member. If you're a member of AMP, they assist you with the program.
So if we get this membership, would the borough implement a rebate program for LED lighting upgrades?
I don't know, that would be a council thing. We kind of hesitated to do that. I mean, I know your for-profits do it, but they do it because it was mandated by the state, and they're doing it on the backs of their customers. So, you know, they're giving money out for commercial people to update lighting and stuff, but that's not free money. That's being paid for by someone else. So someone's going to subsidize it, and we kind of stayed away from that. But it's worth looking into and worth looking into their program or maybe another program again. But
Just to, in a nutshell, so take a commercial customer that has a warehouse that has 800 fixtures, or like a Giant that has, you know, a couple thousand fixtures, and they're, you know, strip fluorescents or metal halides. Our counterparts like MedEd and PP&L offer rebate programs where if that customer upgrades those light fixtures to LED, they will pay for a certain percentage of that project. On the resident, and same thing goes for HVAC equipment. I don't know so much about the HVAC because I don't live in that world, but there also is an incentive with the other utilities for customers that upgrade their HVAC equipment. Now, on the residential side of things, if we have a residential, I'll use Lewisville Air for example. If you live in Lewisville Air and have PP&L and you're just a homeowner and you update your HVAC equipment and you get a higher SEER, you will get a rebate from the manufacturer at the time of purchasing that unit, and the vendor will get that and pass that savings on.
Yeah.
So we don't offer anything like that to our
correct.
commercial
No.
and residential customers.
No, like I said, we did look at it, but that again was a, I think it was Act 61 or something like that, where the state government mandated it. So it mandated your investor-owned utilities to come up with that, and municipal electric systems weren't required to do it. So
I was just
I
curious.
mean it's kind of, you know, if you look at as us as a business, why would a business want to pay money for someone else so you can lose money. Again, they do it on the backs of other residents.
Well, I think the global point is to, obviously then the demand goes down and you're not using as much. So you don't have to buy as much, you don't have to make as much, you don't have to sell as much.
Correct. So, I mean, why wouldn't they just do that on their own?
I'm just,
Yeah.
other
I mean, if
utilities do.
I had a place that I had inefficient equipment and my electric was costing a certain amount, I believe I would replace the inefficient equipment. But I get it. I know what you're saying, but that they're required to do it by state law. That's not them being friendly.
I have
Anything
nothing
else?
Thank you.
Yes. Oh, yeah, there's, I did not put it on here, or is it on,
It's in the back.
you have it on the other one, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is, whole attachment agreement for Shenandoah, is also an action item for, next meeting. All that is, we already have an agreement with them, but it was outdated, so we updated it and updated the new agreement, and that'll be by resolution. Any other questions? Like I said, if you have any questions on the AMP or, the outage records that I gave you, feel free to stop by or give me a call.
Thank you, Greg.
I like talking, you know that. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Greg. Appreciate it.
Greg.
Item number 12, finance.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Sally.
So I have two items that I would like to mention that are not in the report. First, the auditors will be here on June 17th to present the 2024 audit findings. I don't expect anything out of the ordinary with those, so that's good news. The second item is that I had noticed that I put an item in here that I'm going to be posting for the customer service representative position in June, but I'm actually going to be posting internally for 2 positions and then advertising in July for those 2 positions. I just wanted to let council know because I'm getting retirement letters.
2 of them.
Yes. Which weren't unexpected, so.
Were or were not?
Were not.
Okay.
I mean, they were expected. They were expected.
Got it.
To
Good.
clarify that. Does anyone have any questions?
Yes. Do you know, how many roughly residents utilize LIHEAP?
It is, I'm gonna make, my opinion is that it is a critical program for our community. It is, used along with community action on a regular basis. There are, very clear guidelines on who is eligible to participate in that program, but they not only have, grants that they give, but they also have, emergency, monies that they will also release. Community Action is a smaller program that's every 2 years you can get money, but LIHEAP is, I think, critical for our residents. Percentage-wise, I, off the top of my head, I can't tell you, but Lori actually does a report every month on LIHEAP dollars that we've received. So I could get that to you. It's a substantial amount.
If you
Yep,
could,
I
I
can
would
get that
be
for you.
Karen.
Not a problem. Do you want me to send it to all of council?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Sally.
Thanks, Sally.
Fire Department report? Seeing no one here. Highway report.
Aye.
Good evening.
Couple of points on there, we'll follow up with the permit parking, for out at the Grandview area. I did have a meeting with with two contractors on Monday about the reservoir dam. The goal with that will be to have some, estimated costs back to council for the June workshop for items that need to be taken care of out there. The work order system, is in place, staff is using it. Again, a lot of thanks go to Grace for a lot of hours in working with the vendor and inserting all of the different things that we have in there. So, as Ken noted, we did get the county gaming grant. We got an official award letter today in the mail. An agreement will be forthcoming that we can execute and actually start the process to get the money, but we did get our official notice of the $107,000 for Fry Manor Park. As noted on here, we'd requested about 123, so we are a little bit short. One of my action items was recommend deleting the accessible whirl merry-go-round at Fry and replacing it with a traditional merry-go-round unit. At Little Middletown, that is one of the most heavily used pieces of play equipment out there. Folks do like the merry-go-round. I'm going to get working on getting some specs together for the painting for Borough Hall, the library, as well as the roof for the public workshop. Those were funded in the capital projects portion. And the grass has been cut at Main Street Gym. Our contracted vendor cut the grass at Main Street Gym, so it has been taken care of. We will be continuing our efforts with the tenant to have that addressed moving forward. Other action item that I had down below, would recommend changes to the Woody Waste Access Program for the 2026 year. Since 2025 is underway, we would not modify this year. I would recommend an annual limit of 10 uses per address per year. Usage will be monitored internally, and cards will be deactivated after 10 uses with no option to purchase another card in the same year. And we also have not a huge number, but enough of a number that it was suggested that a lost access card fee of $10 be instituted for lost replacement cards. This would be in addition to the original annual card purchase. So if you pay $10 in January to get your card and you lose it in February, you pay $10 to get another card on top of the one you had already purchased. So those would be my recommendations. That should help reduce the volume of materials we get in, and we would take 2026 to monitor how big of a change that makes for the facility, and we would look at additional changes if needed as we would go forward from there.
Matt, my suggestion to this, and I know I missed a meeting, my apologies when this was talked about, but my suggestion would be, instead of handicapping our residents, to only permitting our residents, not permitting outside residents to use Woody Waste, and allowing borough staff to have access to it as well as a convenience for working with the borough. So I think a large percentage of people that use Woody Waste are like Lois Ware or Royalton, and why handicap our residents with X amount of usage when, I mean, let's face it, there's half my properties on Main Street and stuff never use Woody Waste. So my recommendation be Woody Waste should be used by Middletown residents that pay for it and not be handicapped, and allow employees to have access to Woody Waste as well, borough employees.
That's what's talked about, yeah, and we were kind of going back and forth with that. That's where I stand as well. If we're representing our community, I think we represent our, citizens, and we don't limit them, but we limit the others.
I mean, we still charge our residents, still have an access, still have a lost fee card. All that should be, we should still, the residents still should pay for the service. I just think by taking a large section of the users out of the equation, which is other municipalities, it should just take care of itself.
Didn't we get a list of how many people from each municipality got cards?
Yeah,
Yeah,
there was a breakdown.
Yeah.
It was approximately 30%-ish,
That's a lot.
are external, non-Middletown Borough residents.
But they pay a higher rate, right?
Yes, they do. They pay the $50.
Right.
There are also a number of Middletown residents who are well into the 20s, 30s, and greater for usage of the facility as well. So
Right.
we can't necessarily blame most or
Lower
it's
sweat area.
hard to pin it on exactly where
Right.
it comes from. We can only see trips that they come in. So
Well, you just said you saw 20, 30 trips from people from Middletown, so how many trips you seen from people from Lois River?
We'd have to get the spreadsheet, we
Right.
have it. I don't
Yeah.
think we could break it down more and bring it to you.
Right.
I'm just saying, those 20, 30 people, yeah, there's maybe some people doing that, but what happens when they don't have access to woody waste? That shit lays in our borough. It sits in their yards, and then it becomes rodent infested.
Like we said before, too.
Well-
There's somebody that had 70-some trips in a year for a small amount of money, and that hints at somebody doing work.
Yep.
And that means the rest of the borough, in terms of the fees to dispose of this stuff, the rest of the taxpayer are subsidizing that person's business. Who's
Yeah,
coming in.
and I'm okay with if we want to look at businesses in their own.
But I gotta remind you too, because you just pointed out, you want something for your residents.
I do.
Those people doing that, I think if you look harder, and I've talked to one person who's done this kind of thing. I know they go into Highspire and Hummelstown where they own apartments and they cut things down and they bring it here because they have access to, they live here or they live in Lower Swift.
Right.
That's
And
right.
cutting the number of trips down would address that kind of person.
Yep.
Who's in business.
And I thought that's what we were looking to do.
Yeah.
Oh, Ken, when they instituted, woody waste, wasn't there some kind of thing where we would involve?
There's an agreement.
Yeah.
So we'd have to have a solicitor look at getting out of that agreement. We probably can, but it means there's an intermunicipal agreement with those
Right.
communities for the
and
woody waste.
that's what we're involved in now, so we can't just walk away, right, like willy-nilly.
Well, if you want, we can have Jim look at that and see what's involved.
Yeah, we may even have to bring somebody else, cause,
Yeah.
we're
You
counsel
represent
for
them.
Lower Swatera, so.
Right.
you
So,
know,
I mean, it's
we'll
just
find
not,
you another
it's just
attorney
not,
that
we're
can
gonna just
look
say
at
to
and find
Lower
those
Sweat Air goodbye. It's like, when this whole thing started, I remember that it was
We went after grant money and we used the other communities
to get it.
to sell the idea to
Right.
DEP, to buy the grinder and to buy
Yeah.
the property.
How many years ago was that?
A long time.
100 years ago.
No, it
Not
wasn't.
100. I wasn't born then.
15-ish.
Yeah. And I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying we just don't do that without having a legal person look
Yeah.
at that.
Well, what I'm saying is I represent the borough of Middletown and the residents of the borough of Middletown and not Lois River, not Royalton. So,
I get that.
that
We
would
all
be-
get that.
Yeah, that's just saying.
But
But-
we're represented on an agreement. I'm asking if you want to do that, I suggest we have some lawyer look at it, that's all.
Obviously, there would be steps we would have to take.
I just also coincidentally learned recently that's an active Superfund site. The Woody Waste Facility.
Where the school district is, I know, for sure.
Well,
We have
just
part,
heard that
part of the landfill is under the Woody Waste site.
Yeah, it's an active federal Superfund site.
Sure.
Okay,
What's
that was,
What's that mean?
It's a lot of money to
Don't build
remediate.
anything on it or don't dig up.
yeah, it means,
It's built on top of it's built on top of an Air Force
Old
landfill.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So would our neighboring municipalities help us do remediation
No.
costs if
No.
we can do
Superfund
it?
sites are funded by the federal government,
Right.
the EPA.
Really?
It's actually sinking now. We have some
Is it?
work to do out there, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, if you read the Superfund report, it talks about, actually on the land development plan, the estimated boundary of the landfill area is shown on our land development plan. It's a known,
It
It's a
probably
known thing.
identifies the Department of Defense as the people who deposited stuff there, and that's how.
Yeah, apparently, most of it was from soil that was under the, actual
Air Force Base.
well, yeah, the actual runway.
Right.
So you have like, fire retardant and, de-ice stuff and all,
Maybe like
Maybe
extraction
jet fuel.
wells, secure that.
It's an interesting read, the super.
So there are wells there, monitoring wells.
Yeah, but you would need extraction to pump out, put through system, and put back in.
Yeah, no, they're not,
For remediation purposes.
no, not on this one. It's not a groundwater issue.
Oh.
This is physical contamination. I don't know. I didn't know that.
I didn't know
Back
either.
to the woody waste thing, we have two counselors who wish to look into just going from Middletown to the rest of the.
Middletown and borough employees,
We have a consensus?
that would be.
Rich, Angie, Rochelle, what do you folks wanna do?
Wait, repeat that, I'm sorry. You wanna do what?
Ian and Pat are suggesting that we we look at breaking the intermunicipal agreement and just make that woody waste facility for Middletown residents only and leave it at unlimited number of drop-offs, correct?
My proposal would be Middletown residents only, borough staff employees, and also limit businesses.
Yeah, I'd like to see what the agreement says.
So it would, your borough Middletown residents, borough staff members, and limit businesses, so. I wouldn't even care if you had you're a Middletown business, you wanna buy a $500 card and get 15 drops, whatever. But somehow limiting businesses to X amount of, somehow controlling it.
Wasn't this all brought up to limit the amount we were grinding?
Yes.
Well, if you get rid of the neighbors, you're 30% right off the top. 30% right off the top.
But first, can we even just look at the agreement
Yep,
and
that's
see what
what I
it
was
says,
gonna say.
like, before?
The agreement is actually pretty simplistic. It does provide, we have to provide notices to the adjoining municipalities. And I would suggest if we do want to make any significant changes that, in fairness to other entities around us who may be part of it, would want to probably have it solved before they institute their budgets for 2026. So if they need to make plans on their end, they would have time to do so.
That's fair.
But, yeah, I can put the agreement in the next packet, or, whatever council would like to see for it, or we review it internally, that can, and,
I'm not an attorney.
well, yeah, we can get it over to Jim, and,
I was gonna say, if
Let's
it's,
look at it.
as straightforward as we have a right to terminate it
yes.
at will, then, there presumably wouldn't be any
What
conflict
about
or
the
anything.
agreement with DEP? Did anybody look at that?
I can check with them and see. DEP's, I believe from discussions with them previously, their take on it would be that we could potentially lose, I'll use a layman's term, bonus points, because we're not a multi-municipal facility. But a grant is not necessarily guaranteed, even if you have the bonus points. It's a competitive grant process. But that would be one downfall, would be that we could lose bonus points per se when we go for grants in the future.
In 15 years is long enough, we wouldn't have to pay anything back.
Correct.
You know that for sure.
I will verify that, but my understanding is that there would be no penalty for us to get out of the agreement.
Jesus.
If you wanna move to Royalton and run for council over there, you can, Rochelle.
Look,
Ian, enough.
you know what?
Hey, hey, hey.
Hey, Rochelle.
If you really,
It's not, let it
Yeah, it's not worth it.
let it go.
you don't know how to build bridges. You like to tear them down, don't you?
Okay. Any questions for Matt?
No, I want to punch him in the face.
Yeah. Matt, did you have anything else?
No, I'd like to get the weather out of here so we can finish up over Deer, and we can move forward and get the sun shining again.
Ah, that's me
So,
too.
But yeah, it looks good. I think the contractor did a nice job, so
Yeah.
kudos to them, and we're excited to get it open. So, as always, if anyone has anything, please feel free to reach out, and I'll get you the answers you're looking for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Police report number 15.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hi.
I just have a couple things to go over. Borough manager had already brought up the Memorial Day parade was canceled. I think the reason was participation was down. The aging population of the people that actually participate in it. It's unfortunate. One of my favorite events to participate in, but they assured us they'll still have the same going on up at the ceremony at the cemetery. We had a food truck sighting earlier this weekend. We have a resident who bought a food trailer. There was some concerns. He was operating the food truck in a preparation for an event over the weekend. However, I interpret the ordinance as if you're cooking and your fan's on and your gas is flowing, doesn't matter whether you're selling anything, you're operating your food truck. He's in a public space, he's in our street, and he's burning gas and running the equipment. So we educated him on the ordinance and directed him to how to apply for a permit if he wants to do anything within the borough. So hopefully that puts an end to it. The other thing I want to discuss was the air show, which is quickly upon us this weekend. I believe the event sold out for both days.
Wow.
Myself and the chief of Lower Swatera met with the fire police contingent. We are fortunate enough to have their participation between Middletown Borough and Lower Swatera Township. There are 8 traffic control points that need to be manned, primarily for the exiting of approximately 5,000 vehicles that will be attending the event. I would suggest you stay off of Main Street between 3:30 and 5 o'clock on Saturday and Sunday.
Really?
Yeah. I met with the fire chief, the fire police who's in charge of it today over lunch. They're going to have staffing at all of our traffic control points, which is fantastic. So that'll allow borough police, including myself on both days, to deal with any potential crowd issues down on Susquehanna Street. So the airport is actually going to be posting their property down there tomorrow. Matt was in touch with them today. We're not sure exactly how they're going to be posting it, like specific tape around their property or just posting specific no trespassing signs, but kind of complicates things because they own property right in the middle of our property down there that affects where we do the fireworks and where our people sit as part of their property. Is that correct? So I'm glad they're posting it because it'll give us a good idea tomorrow of how much space is actually available for our residents who are planning on driving down there and parking and watching the air show free of charge. A couple things to keep in mind. We have the boat launch. The Swati's supposed to crest on Saturday right below flood stage, which means the parking lot will be half inundated. If that's the case, I plan on closing the boat launch. I'm not a boater, but if you can't see the ramp and you can't see the concrete pier, I'm not sure you can safely utilize that facility. That might cause a problem for people who think they're putting their boat in this weekend and going upstream to watch the air show. We're going to put the sign trailer down there. We approved 2 requests to sell food. We have no applications for food trucks. So as far as I'm concerned, those are the only 2 people who are going to be selling food. Everybody else is going to get chased off. We're going to use our sign trailer, no food vendors, boat launch closed. Whatever presents itself throughout the week as we prepare for this, we'll try to get up on the sign trailer. I know Royalton is closing Water Street specifically because they're concerned because Water Street's a good place to park and watch the air show. Water Street is a residential area. There are houses completely up through on Water Street. We don't have that issue down on Susquehanna Street, so I'm not recommending that we close or limit access, but Matt's going to leave a truck with some sawhorses in it available to us. If we get a crowd that we can't handle, we're going to close the streets. We're going to limit what we have to maintain control of the area, and there are people that do live down there, so we don't want to overburden them too much, but again, it is an open space with very few houses. I'm not sure it's the best place to watch it. The tree line will have an impact on what you can see, but for free, I'm sure there'll be some good sites. We're gonna play it by ear as the week goes on, specifically with weather. Once the airport cordons off their particular areas, there will be limited spaces for people to park in the grass. We're gonna limit parking, obviously, on the ball field, the football field, any of that space. We're not gonna let cars travel on that, but there's an area where we park cars for the car show, that potentially if the weather permitting, if it's not mush, I think tomorrow's the last day of rain till Saturday, maybe. Depending on the circumstances in the crowd, we may allow people to park in there. That's something we're gonna play by ear. But there's plenty of parking on Susquehanna Street itself. You can probably get a couple hundred cars. There's parking on some of the surrounding streets if people wanna walk down with some chairs. I'm not sure what to expect. I'll be completely honest with you. I'm not sure what to expect. So we're just gonna be prepared. If you have any concerns that come up this week, if you have any concerns that day, I'll be out both days. 3 o'clock, we're meeting with the fire police at their command post to make sure they're prepared for the traffic control points. The egress is the problem. The show opens at 9, but only starts at 12, so people have all morning to get there. Everybody's gonna wanna leave at the same time at 3 o'clock. Again, I would recommend not driving on Main Street between those hours, or anywhere near 283 in the airport connector or anything along those lines. They're expecting an hour and a half to 2 hours to get everybody out. Wow. They're basically gonna be standing with controls at the traffic control lights and just green light for 5 or 10 minutes just to get the air show people out. So.
Dan, are you prepared for Friday, because that is practice day for friends and family over at the airport, so that might draw some people down.
Well, Friday's the day we're gonna go down and determine exactly what we're gonna close off. Matt's gonna put some no parking signs in the area of the football field and some other areas. We'll have the ability to assess exactly what our area is, and we'll be down there, so. It is a practice day with the Blue Angel, so technically it's.
That's from 11:30 to 4.
Yeah, so technically it's another air show day.
The Blue
It
Angel
is.
will be near the end of
Right.
the day.
They're coming in 11:30 to 4 that day?
That's the
That's the practice period.
Okay.
And I don't know if they follow the same regimen of the show. I don't know who goes first or how they go.
I did hear that the Blue Angels will go last on Friday.
Okay.
Okay.
And the other thing that'll help too with the practice days, we'll be able to see what can be seen. You know, like this is either gonna be a bust, you can't see anything here.
Right.
Or it's the best seat in Dauphin County.
Well,
Which I don't think it's gonna be the best seat in Dauphin County, but there will be some, I mean, you can sit down there and watch the Jets land. So we will be able to see some planes from down there.
no, where I live,
And you're having a party.
Yeah, buddy. Yep. No, but, down there at Med Ed at the baseball field, right in that one.
Yep, right at that end.
That end, that's the sweet spot.
Well, we're actually closing off Susquehanna right past the parking spaces for the field.
Mm-hmm.
And we're closing Russell Avenue off too, because that funnels you down, that's airport property right down through there.
Mm-hmm.
And they want nobody anywhere near their property. So, again, we'll play it by ear and see how it goes. And again, you know, without the fire police, we alone have 4 traffic control points. There'd be uniformed police officers standing at 4 traffic control points all day long.
Right.
So, they're really doing us a solid.
Yeah.
I know it's not the borough responsibility, but I believe there's an exclusion zone in the river itself.
There is. They're gonna have DCNR boats out, they're gonna have buoys out, they're gonna have, ropes out. It's not helping that the river's gonna be high.
Yeah. It's gonna be unsafe really to go.
It's going to be, yeah, that's one of the reasons why we're closing the boat launch. Not sure we have the authority to, but.
So are we
I'm doing
100% closing it, or are we only closing it if the water crests?
I checked before I got here, it's supposed to crest Saturday morning.
Okay, I'm
Yeah,
asking,
yeah.
is it
Um,
like,
We're gonna wait till that day. But we close it anyway, once it comes halfway up the parking lot, because it comes a playground for kids on bikes and stuff anyway, so,
but is it, if it crests, we close it, if it doesn't crest, we don't close it?
if it's, regardless of what the meter says, if it's muddy and you can't see the launch or the concrete pier, I'm gonna close it.
Okay.
Just because somebody doesn't know, somebody's not from Middletown, has never used that before, shows up with a boat and tries to launch,
I just know, cause there's a lot of Middletown residents that have boats, so if somebody asks
that
me.
thinks they're gonna be able to
Well,
launch.
if somebody asks
Yeah.
me, I can say, if the launch is not visible, it's
Yeah.
we're closing it. That's the,
Yeah, unless DCNR hears this and calls me and says, you ain't closing my boat launch. Okay,
That's Fish and Boat Commission.
yeah,
I think our
Yeah.
agreement gives us the
I think it
ability
does
to
too.
close it.
And I think it's smart. I just think it's gonna be, I mean, flood stage on the Swati entering into the river, it's fast and it's high.
oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's really fast.
And hopefully it doesn't creep up to the point that it's, I don't think at 9 feet it goes past the parking lot. No.
It'll stay down on the parking lot.
Okay,
Mhm.
And I'm not so sure that the weather that we received today is gonna impact
Right.
what they're thinking. I'm
I think,
hoping not.
I think they expected more rain.
I
Yeah.
really do, yeah.
Yeah, they were expecting
So
up to an
We may
inch.
not see a 9-foot crest. We may luck out and if it stays 7 foot, you could.
We might be able to. Like today, the pier is, early this morning, the pier was about 6 inches out of the water, and you could clearly see the ramp. Again, I think we leave it open in that particular case. The parking lot wasn't flooded, and you could see where, the backup areas were all clear. Then we would leave it open.
So is that like the standard now, that if the, ramp is covered and if it's into the parking lot, then it gets closed?
The standard's going to be probably a little bit different when it's not the air show, but if the parking lot, if it's up halfway up the parking lot,
Yeah.
we will do our best to try to get it closed. In fact, Matt and I had talked about, we used to have horses at the police department, and then we utilize them, and they get picked up by highway, and we forget to replenish our supply. So we're gonna do a better job of making sure we have horses available to us, so if it's Saturday, I don't have to call highway out to throw 2 sawhorses in front of the boat launch, and we can't keep them down there all year long, so.
Well, and I understand the mindset that people ignore that and, they'll go around it, but I also feel that we need to put them up anyway, because
Right.
if something happens.
We have an
that's-
obligation to
Right,
to promote public safety,
right,
and if people choose to go around them, we at least put them up.
right, exactly.
I completely agree.
Because if something happens, the first thing when that horse isn't up there is, why weren't they up?
Right.
We should talk with maybe the boat commission, I don't know who we'd have to collaborate with, but it may not be a bad idea to put like a permanent gate, one that, nothing elaborate,
No,
not
just-
tens of
You
thousands,
get
but
those
just a
arm
little,
gates that, yeah,
that way,
swing out of the way.
because I have been on this council where we've had a flash flood in a random hour and just highways trying to mobilize.
Yep.
I don't know why we can't maybe work with the boat commission and get a little gate thing and just,
It would
nothing
be easy.
special, nothing elaborate, just
It would be easy.
highway can probably install it. Not trying to give you any progress, but.
Yeah, highway could do that. It's a good idea. So again, I don't know what to expect. I really don't. We're just gonna try to be prepared for the best, and, hopefully everybody has a good and a safe time.
Thank you.
Have you got anything else? Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
You got-
Hey, Dan,
Yes.
when will Alex graduate from the academy?
It's June 21st, I believe, is the graduation.
Okay.
So,
Okay,
and he'll be ready to go.
okay.
Oh,
I just, wanted to ask you a couple questions about, National Night Out. or you wanna ask him?
No, go ahead if you have
Okay.
questions.
Who are you planning on utilizing for National Night Out?
The police,
Yeah, no, we know that, but I mean, your officers, what officers?
I don't know who's working that shift.
Can I just interject for a second? I don't want the names of officers said
Oh.
at a public meeting as to when their schedule is.
Oh, okay, that's true. I'll ask you later.
Okay. Anything else?
Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're right, Jim. You're right. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Item number 16, joint venture Veolia. Grace, note that no one's here. Item number 17, council. Does council have anything?
Oh, yes, I do.
Okay.
I almost forgot. My question is, when we had looked at Fry Park before, wasn't there funds from Fry that were put into a different account?
Sally?
Are you talking
Yes,
about?
that's exactly what I'm referring to.
Yeah, we,
Where is it?
no, I'm gonna answer that. We had $50,000 budgeted for a shelter, and when the, other park project came up and required a match, we got council's approval to use that money to the match for the South Union Street Park. So that necessitates a little bit of a cutback on what we're gonna do at Fry Park from 123,000 to 107. We don't have the 16 to make that.
Repeat that.
We don't have the extra 16,000 to make up the shortfall that the count.
So we did use the 50,000 that we
didn't
did
spend it
put-
yet, but we planned it for the other project.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay.
Since you brought up Fry Park, I do have a question. So when organizations or clubs like the Nerf Club want to use our facilities, they come in and ask permission, and we grant them permission, to, like the Nerf Club and other organizations like that. An organization that's not affiliated with the borough just can't come on our property and like move equipment and use it at their leisure, correct?
Move equipment?
Just
Or,
an organization just can't show up to our property.
no, that's why we had that, like the special event from Castaway Critters that we brought up tonight. You get the vote on that, whether you're gonna allow it or not.
So what I'm getting at is down at Fry Park, there's an organization that has tons of equipment. Half of it looks abandoned, unsafe, just sitting there. They have events and they don't communicate with the borough.
What?
Well, who is it?
Seven Stars Football.
They do communicate with the
Yeah,
borough.
we have their schedule.
The borough council approves them using that land?
It's been long-standing
always
approval
used it.
forever. If you wanna change it, yeah,
Well,
we'd have to,
it's not Seven Sorrows anymore. For the record, Seven Sorrows, the church in the borough of Middletown, does not have a football team.
right,
That's
it's
correct.
the athletic association.
It's a separate organization, correct?
That's what I understand, but they're still using the name Seven Sorrows.
They're still using the name Seven Sorrows. And do they just have a blanket, you're free to use it, or do they fill out an application annually? Do they provide insurance?
They provide insurance, they submit their schedule. They were submitting it through Mara. I think Matt has the most recent one. And, we get that because we coordinate for when MABA is on the baseball field and when the Seven Sorrows football players and cheerleaders are down there.
I think Public Works should do an audit down there because there is a lot of abandoned equipment that is 100% not being used. It's half in the woods, like old football, those tackle things, just stuff falling apart that is clearly not being utilized.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
it presents a safety hazard. I mean,
Yeah,
kids.
Matt, check that out, go down there and take some pictures, what's down there, and bring it back to us.
I mean,
I
kids
can look at
kids
it.
play down there, and the baseball field, I believe, it looks abandoned. It's not being maintained. If it's not being used, I think the borough should demobilize it get the structures out of
Already
there.
took care of that letter and all.
No.
Pardon me?
Well, it's already in the works. That baseball field.
It is?
Yeah, it is. The baseball field at Fry Park,
There's two of
right
them.
next to the playground. That's already in the works.
In the works as far as?
As the fencing that's going away because the playground's extending, correct, Matt?
Is our Public Works demobilizing that? Okay. Do you have it on the schedule?
Not as yet, no.
Do you know when you'll put it on the schedule?
I do not.
Okay. I just know, like, I was down there, I noticed our lawnmower guys, our lawn crew is still moving that, there's
All the
bleachers
bleachers,
there, they're
yeah.
still moving the bleachers to mow around it, they're still weed whacking around the fence. You know, kids are still running around climbing up on, it's like, if it's not being used. I'm sorry, I didn't know that it was on the books too.
I couldn't recall whether the new park extends into that or not. Matt, are you saying the new park's gonna extend into the baseball field?
Yes, we're going to move it, the current park is in a little bit of a low area, and there's a storm sewer pipe under the existing park, so it's going to be relocated up closer to roughly about where the first baseline.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We did obtain a letter from MABA, I think a year or so
Yeah.
ago.
I remember talking about it, I just didn't realize
need
it ever
that
was
field. Yeah.
officially put on the books. I know there was, and I saw this, I was just down there, and I think I think we should at least have it looked at by a vendor. The big tree that had a limb that dropped off last year that took out the power lines. There is a substantial chunk of that tree that is missing now, and it goes into another major lead that overhangs. I like the tree. I think we should keep the tree, but I think we should at least have it looked at to make sure that that other lead isn't jeopardized because of the chunk that's missing.
Okay.
It's substantial.
That is on my, gonna have Charles come in and look at about 8 different trees for us.
It's in the park area, and I would hate to see it fall. But I'm not recommending we cut the tree. I just would like to have it looked at.
Anyone else? Seeing no one else has anything, now is the time of general public comment. Just a reminder, our meetings are live streamed and recorded.
In 4 minutes.
No.
Oh, we don't have. Oh,
Jack
limited.
Still,
Yeah, she was talking to me.
the handicap parking, I think you ought to keep it to 2, because theoretically, with all the old people, a whole street could be handicap parking. And the situation that I think they asked for a handicap parking space in front of their house. Take the word house out of there. That might solve your painting somebody else's curb or something like that. Just take the word in front of your house out. A handicap spot. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack.
Anyone else?
So I'm Jennifer Follinger. I live at 138 Ann Street in Middletown. And I worked for the Department of Health and Welfare with the LIHEAP program. I want to say that it's an amazing program, but the borough is one of the very few that will shut you off if they don't get their application in time. Unfortunately, that is a program through the Department of Welfare where they are hired as part-time employees, and we average close to 300 to 400 applications per day. I would like to see the borough maybe consider an age group or if they're elderly or there's a disability, not shutting off the services because we are overloaded, or they were overloaded significantly. If you receive services prior to, you will get an application for LIHEAP or LIWAP for water in November. The rest of the season does not open up until January for the regular public who has never applied before. And I've seen, as we've seen, our fire department has had to respond to multiple gas issues or fires because people are using heaters that are below standard. I mean, it's just a suggestion. I did submit something to the Public of Health and Welfare that we start putting out applications earlier, and that anybody receiving food stamps, medical, or cash assistance get those applications. It not just be limited to those who have previously applied. That's why I say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Seeing no one else, we'll be going to executive session to discuss real estate and litigation. And I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.
Meeting adjourned.